So this entire video is going to be a little bit of an education. So I'm going to be mansplaining my thought process and my way of preparing and installing hardwood floors. Doesn't mean it's the best, may not even be right, but it's worked for me, so I'm just gonna get right into it. So the first thing you have to do is determine how you want to lay out your hardwood floors. Is it going to go left to right, or is it going to go long way like I have it in the center of the hallway here? What I've noticed in the best practice is you want to run the hardwood floors the length, meaning the long way of whatever your room is. It makes the space appear a little bigger, and if you go the opposite way, it kind of looks awkward. And then you got to determine how you want to position the hardwood floors. And typically what you do is you center one of the pieces in the middle of the floor, depending on where you want your starting point to be. So if you want it to be the hallway, you center it here, and this would be the baseline for your entire floor. Or if we were in the bonus room here, and I wanted to start in the middle, I would measure the distance of the wall here from left to right, get the center line and put the first board in, and then measure back to the wall where that last board's going to be in and start from there. The reason you would do that is because once you get to the left and right side, you're going to have the same width of the board for your last piece, the same on this side as it would be on that side. That's how you would normally do it, and but I have such an odd space, and I have a special circumstance where I do not want to do that. I am going to base the entire second floor off of this top piece of stairway here. And you can see here, that's 3/4 inch, and I've matched up the hardwood floors up against that. It's flush 3/4 inch. Reason why I did that is because when you're coming up the stairs, right? You come up, you get to the top one. I don't want this first piece of hardwood to be a thin piece, and then you start with your next full piece. I think it would look awkward and kind of dumb, to be quite honest. And if I use that method over there, most likely once I get to this point, I'll have a thinner piece than I would. I'll have a thinner piece than I would for the rest of the pieces here. So this is going to be our baseline. However, I can't do the entire hallway yet because I got to take out this molding that's behind here. I've got some second part of the project 6 is to get this hallway done. So we have to get the daughter number 1's room first, but I need to get the correct measurements so when I put the first board down, as I come out into the hallway, they'll match up correctly once I get here. So you can see what I've done here is I put these in tight of how they're going to be spaced. I'm going to put them real tight. There'll be another board here, of course, but I'm just lining it up for now. And then these are tongue and groove, so your staples or your cleats go inside here with that machine over there. And I'm just going to line these up, make sure they're tight, so I can get an idea. I'm going to put the phone down here for a second, so I can get an idea of where I need to put my first starter board for the room. So if I'm looking at this correctly, the first one's going to be here. So what I could do is mark that piece down. That's going to be the first board into her room. And then I can nail that one down. And then when I'm ready to come out, we'll line all these up, and then this piece should line up perfectly. Once I get this long piece in here, it'll line up perfectly with this. The other thing you'll notice is because they're tongue and groove, I've got the tongue and groove on this side, but when I get into the room, you would normally have it, you would normally have it like this. You put it in and you nail it, but there's no way for me to nail that side. And there would be no way for me to nail this side because there's no tongue and groove. So we're gonna reverse this. That way, when I get into her room, I'll be able to use that and pound into here. But we also don't want this unsecured on this side. So what I'm going to end up doing here is I am actually going to make I think this is about 3/16 inch. I'm actually going to make a groove just for this board alone. And then I'm going to put it on each side, wide enough so it sticks in. And then that way, when I put these two together, it'll be tight. So that's going to take a little bit of work. I've got a planer. I've got plenty of wood to put in there. And we'll just plane it down to size and make sure that fits in there correctly. So that'll be the first piece. Once that's in, we'll just continue on to the room until we get to the end and finish it up. We also have 2 tools here for cutting a jamb. So the hardwood floors can go underneath each one of these. This tool is actually a door jamb saw. And the way this works is you put it up against the door jamb and you can saw, and you saw it off and on all 3 sides there, and then the hardwood floors will fit underneath. The cool thing about this saw is it is reversible. So check this out. Try to do it with one hand here, but this actually flips around, as you can see, and you can make it left or right-handed. These work quite well, but they do get tiresome like any saw because you're constantly going back and forth to try to cut the jamb. The other piece here is a reciprocating saw, and this is electric, of course. Get these blades on it, and this is what I will most likely use to cut the jamb. And you put the saw in there, and then you just saw it off that way. Now the way to do this is you flip one of these around, put some a towel or something on there so you don't scratch the surface, and then lay that piece up against the jamb. Then you saw it, go back and forth depending on what side you're on, like this, or you use electric saw and do it that way. Once that's cut off, flip it back over, and then your hardwood floor will fit right underneath perfectly. So that's hardwood flooring 101, the way I do it. The next piece here is this underlayment. This is asphalt felt, they call it. This happens to be 15 pound, it's upside down, but it also comes in 30 pound and 45 pound. Basically, that's the same stuff they use on the roofing before they put the asphalt shingles down. It's essentially the same. 15 pounds the lightest weight you get, and that's good enough for the flooring. It's got these lines on it, so you can line them up to make sure everything's straight. And the whole purpose for putting this down first, we're gonna run it this way. And these are 4-foot strips, and or 3.5 foot, actually 3 foot. And we're gonna run them front to back here. And the whole reason for that is to prevent squeaking. You don't want wood on wood. You want a barrier in between that to help prevent some of the squeaking that you would get from wood when wood is on wood. There are a ton of products that you can use other than this felt. They have corkboard, plastic, foam. There's a product similar to your carpet padding. That's all used for sound, anti-squeaking, etc. Popular to belief here, but not the case. A lot of people say this is for vapor barrier protection. And that's really not the case. Number one, I'm on the 3rd floor here in this house. We have a basement, so 2nd or 3rd floor, depending on how you're looking at it. And there's not gonna be any moisture under here. So that's number one. Number two, it's kind of hard to create a moisture barrier when you're putting 1,000 cleats and holes into this thing as you're pounding the hardwoods into the floor. So the vapor barrier argument is negligible here. So it's primarily used to prevent wood on wood and slow down the squeaking. And then finally, one more thing. We're gonna use the electrical stapler. Remember I used that on the insulation in the bonus room. Definitely get one of these, 3/8 inch, and that's the Aero stapler, and it'll make it go a lot easier. And then finally we have the hardwood flooring tool here. This uses compressed air, of course. Pump it up to about 90 PSI, Put some oil in here, keep it clean and moving. All the dust you see here is the drywall dust from the other room. But anyways, this is actually a 2-in-1. It's a Banks, which is the Harbor Freight brand. It's I think it was $149. It's $100 cheaper than a Boss Stitch or a DeWalt, the same one. Works perfectly fine. My whole thing is, if I don't use a tool more than like once every 3 years or once every 2 years, it's a Harbor Freight tool. Because if it breaks, it doesn't matter. They're cheap enough, but they're actually good quality too, you know. So if this was a full-time job and I did this 40, 50 hours a week, just putting in hardwood floors, yeah, I might consider a Boss Stitch, DeWalt, Porter Cable, whatever, but this works absolutely perfectly fine. And then you've got these, as I said, it was a 2-in-1, so you've got flooring staples, which is the FS, and you got FC for flooring cleats, and it gives you the dimensions on there, what you're going to use. But the flooring staples look like normal staples, except that they're 2 inches long, and they slide in and you put them in there. The flooring cleats are more of like a J-shaped, and you can see see what that looks like here. And for the longest time, I used flooring staples. They work perfectly fine, no problem with it. The only issue I had is when the machine jams and you try to get the flooring staples out of the hardwood floors, it's a pain in the butt to get those staples out, because I usually end up using needle nose pliers, digging into the wood, and then having to pull it out, and then I take my vice grips and then pull it out even more. End up damaging the wood most of the time, and it was just kind of a pain in the butt. So on the flooring that I did in the master bedroom, I said, hey, I'm gonna try these cleats. So I got the cleats, and what a world of difference. Number one, they work just as well, as I stated before, but when it does jam, you don't have the extra process of having to use the pliers to try to get those out. It was simply using vice grips, grabbing it and just pulling it out, kind of using it leverage, and then it just came right out and it worked absolutely perfect, and I won't go back to using staples anymore. But it's 6-to-1, half dozen the other, which one you want to use, but these work fantastic. So these are 16 gauge, the staples are 15.5 gauge, and we'll end up using those. So that's what we have for the tools of the trade. Sorry I got a little bit long-winded there, but that's me mansplaining again. So with that, we are going to close out number 43, and I'm actually going to call it a day here because it's getting close to dusk. My body's sore, and I'm tired. I have a slight headache, blah, 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 blah. And we're gonna pick this up fresh the next day. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, peace out.